channel. Today we are going to be reviewing Darby and the Dead. Um, it originally aired, I think, on Peacock, and I really loved like the kind of like Halloweeny vibe that it had. There's been so many movies like coming out after October that have like all the spooky vibes, and I've been loving it. It's kind of like a young adult, cutesy kind of comedy kind of movie. It is about a young girl who ends up going through a tragic accident. Her mom ends up dying because of this accident, and she ends up almost dying but surviving. And as a result, she can see the dead. And it takes sort of like a very comedic turn where she ends up accepting her gift and using it to help them out. She has like this office that she opens up in her bedroom every single Friday for them to come and talk to her and tell her what they need of her so that way they can move on. I love how it takes all these different qualities and characteristics that we see in movies where people can see the dead and just kind of takes it in a different direction. It's very lighthearted, very cutesy, but also touches on all these important topics that people that age go through, and also tackles on the idea of death and grief. And I really loved it. So Darby ends up being able to see dead people. That distances her from the actual world. I love that this movie like plays a little bit with the fourth wall, in that she's like talking to us and we're not exactly sure if like we're just like another like level to her abilities where she can like see through like the screen and like knows that we're watching her story, or if we are ghosts ourselves. And I think that's really funny and very um different as well. And so she, when her mom was alive, she wanted to be a cheerleader. She was very much like social, and now it's like this is something that she doesn't really pay too much attention to. She does pay attention to it, but like more of a strategical point of view, because she's matured a lot through her gift and learning through the dead and helping them out. And so she just doesn't feel like that's the life for her, that this is her purpose, and that's fine. But at the same time, she lacks those social skills that she really needs at her age, and she doesn't really realize that. Also, in this movie, we have the typical stereotypes that we usually have in like young adult movies nowadays. Like I grew up on Disney Channel. Like these were not like the type of movies that I really watched as a teenager. I love them now, but I do think that they play very heavily on the stereotypes. I love that we kind of break that down, and look at the different levels and layers of like what makes a person and who these people truly are. And that is like the main like thing of these movies, that like people are not exactly what you think they are. There's more to a person. But in order to do that, I think that when they first like show us the characters and we are introduced to these individuals, they are very stereotypical, and it's a little cringy, and I'm not sure we should be that much on the nose with that. But I do like what they do later on, and kind of like break those stereotypes. I think that's the point, where it's like we introduce them in a very cringy, very this is what society thinks of them, but it's not kind of way. But it can be a little rough sometimes. But yeah, we have the cheerleaders, the boyfriend of the cheerleader, the head cheerleader. We have the boy that's interested, like the odd girl out, which is our protagonist. And we have the caring family member. We have all of this. And I like how even though we have like all the basics of like this type of story, we still get a different type of story out of it, and it shows like all the different ways that we can tell stories nowadays. which is impressive in itself. Although I do like when things are a little bit different, and we kind of break out of that. But in these type of movies, like it works because it's like you expect it to be that kind of story, but then you're kind of looking to see what makes it better, what makes it different. So we have the head cheerleader who passes away through an accident that she causes herself, and then Darby ends up being able to see her. I can literally name off all the movies that I have seen that literally have the same plot. But what I liked about this was that it wasn't just, oh, we're trying to make her popular and, change her clothes. And even though it's so cliche, but I do like those type of movies, just because they bring me back to my childhood in a weird way. And I think that a lot of these movies like take those ideas that we saw as kids, and also use that. But she wants to be remembered, and she wants people to really, care about her as an individual, and that's kind of like hidden underneath like all the, I want this big party, I want, everyone to celebrate my life and it to go off with a bang and everything, and like I want everyone to remember me as popular and this and that. It's more sort of like I am a human that worked hard for people to notice me, and this is the only way I got people to notice me. And I really want to know that people care. And that's all like that. Capri, her name was Capri, and I only remembered it because her full name was Capricorn, and I'm like, interesting because I'm a Capricorn, but then she wasn't a Capricorn, which is kind of funny. Um, but basically, yeah, like she was told multiple times that, her looks are going to be the only thing that get her anywhere. And I think that once, Darby ends up becoming more popular and like people end up loving her and her being jealous, it really starts to show like what was really important to her in the first place. And then we have I don't know what's his name. He's a great actor. He's a great singer. He came out in Andy Mack originally, and then he came out in Shazam. And now like honestly, in any movie that he's in, he's really good. And he's like the love interest, and I hated that they made him very like codependent on Capri, and then very like that much that way with Darby. Like he needed someone to kind of latch onto, and it showed that he had to kind of grow out of that. But like when you see that he like went on The Voice to like sing and like loves music. I wanted to see kind of more of that independence from him because like I feel like he had that originally and then just became very codependent on Capri, and it's like because she was supportive after that, and I guess he needed that, but it was also like he was much more than that in the first place. And I also think he would have provided more like of a musical element to the movie that I would have liked just because he's a great singer. And even though it would have been very cliche, I think it would have been really cute. But yeah, so that kind of irked me a little bit. And then it wasn't like a full makeover that they did on Darby. It was more sort of like accentuating like stuff from her mom's closet and like her inner beauty and stuff like that, which I really liked. It wasn't like we're just gonna go out and spend a bunch of money and bam, And I liked that it was a little bit more simple. And they like played on like the idea of like the mom's clothes was vintage and everything, and like that I liked because I'm like, okay, that's unique. And then her kind of like love interest, like who's been trying to like get her attention throughout the full movie, ends up being able to see ghosts as well because he almost died as well. It was very interesting, and then he ends up talking to us, and they both end up talking to us, and it's just like, what are we, But still, and then the dad, being so supportive, even like with the fact that, like, she's growing and changing and maybe in ways that he doesn't exactly approve of, but at least like she's discovering herself and being still so very supportive of that, I think is really interesting and shows a lot to his character. And I like how they they had like the posse, like the with like the main cheerleader, like she kind of had like her group, like her three girls and everything. um and I loved how one of the actresses, Nicole, I don't know her last name, and she's transgender, very openly transgender, and they were perfectly fine with making the cheerleader transgender, and she was just like, I'm trans, and it was like not a big thing, and that I think was very like nicely put in and everything. I don't like how she also kind of was like the one who didn't really care, like was like sort of about everything, and then ended up being the one who, like, I guess liked Darby, and maybe liked Capri, like it, I felt it could have been any other individual. I felt like they sort of used the fact that she was transgender to say like that she likes girls, and like is also like the one who's like too cool, like, and that I feel was like, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but if you think what I think based on what I was seeing, like it felt like there was something more to that, and I feel like it should have been addressed, and it's important to address those things if it was or if it isn't, because that wasn't really okay if it was that. If it wasn't, then it wasn't. um but yeah, I there was a guy that just like showed up in like the click, like randomly, and I was just like, he did it at other times, and I was like, so why are you there and you not there? Like, I think it's completely, like, it's awesome that there's a guy on the cheerleading squad, and like he doesn't have to be gay or anything to like hang out with them. And so like the fact that like he was in some scenes and wasn't, like, I don't know what that said about like that. And so yeah, there was little things like that where I was just like, I could have done without that. Usually when I watch a movie, I'm like, I wanted them to touch more on this and this. Um, but there's certain things I just could have done without. Not to say that it made me not enjoy the movie. It just kind of was like, what is going on here? And then I felt pretty bad for the guy who just like wanted. Is this was so sweet. The guy who his son was gay and was with a partner. And I guess they got married and they were about to have a kid, and he was like feeling terrible about it and saying wanted to say that he really did approve of his son. Like that was so wonderful, and I think that that was like putting in like ideas from today and things that are going on in today's society, um, and making it very universal and also kind of like just in the now, in such a light and wonderful way where it's like we're not putting too much emphasis on this idea and just leaving it for what it is. And so I felt kind of bad for him when Darby didn't end up helping him. At the end of the day, I was like, at the end of the movie, I was just kind of like, wait, what happened with that one guy? And then the other guy ended up helping him, but I was like, was he mad at Darby? I mean, I think like the ghosts, I think were also very understanding of her and like the fact that she was going through stuff, especially that one ghost who was like the one who stayed and was waiting for his wife. And like he was like, he had his moment where he was upset at her, but at the same time, like, how could he be upset at her? Because like she was going through stuff and she's a teenager and you can't expect that much from her. um I don't understand why the mom didn't come to her. I don't think that was really explained. She just kind of like showed up and was like, I wasn't able to leave because of you. But then why didn't you show up and be like, and tell her that? And then she finally got to cross over. That was great. And everyone lived happily ever after. It was a good movie. And that one scene where Darby ends up like coming out, like the whole like thing with the Ouija board and everything going crazy at the party was just like hilarious, and like the boyfriend being like, she's talking to me, and it's like, oh my god, what is happening? But I think it was just really nicely done. It just was a lot in one scene. And I think at that point, Capri should have been like, wait a second, I'm missing something. He does not like her. What is happening? Um, and so when she like tells everybody like, hey, I see dead people and this and that. And then the fact that like they just kind of like accept her afterwards. Like there's this like whole scene afterwards where they think that she's crazy and stuff, no? Like, and even though like they sort of remember what happened the night before, they definitely remember that. And then after that, when she just kind of like makes good with Capri and like she moves on with her life, then I guess it's not that big of a deal anymore. Or they just kind of did that for the sake of the movie, where it's like, okay, she did that, but okay, and then she like talks to like the cheerleader girls, and they're like, fine, I guess, to a point with her. So I guess it's not that big of a deal. Um, but yeah, I like the movie, and even though I can compare it to so many other movies I've seen lately, and even in this year, I think it was really good. And I just like those type of movies. But there are certain things that I wish were different with those type of movies as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you real soon. Bye.